it's time for the FTC scenarios video. The way this works is, as you can see from the past seasons on here, I go through every single possible FTC combination and predict, like, okay, this is who I think would get, this is who I think this person would vote. Then I tally them up at the end, and also for each one, I give my not, I give who I would have voted for. So if you look at some of the past seasons I've done this, and then the actual scenarios we got. He was Legends. I was right in the winner, way off on, not that off on the vote count. Um, Smiling Friends, I was completely just dead wrong. That was just a terrible showing. Uh, for Romance Dawn, it should have been a blowout, but it wasn't. Uh, Zero Escape, I was close. Uh, fucking Phelan, I was dead off right again. And then, um, Radiator Springs, I was also off by a bit. So, I don't have the greatest track record at this, but maybe it's gonna change. I do briefly want to talk about how the mid-season power rankings is going, which, to be honest, not well. This is a fucking pathetic showing, to be frank, on that. Which seems to happen pretty often. Um, any season with a merge is bigger than like 9 people, I just do bad at it. I just do bad. That's all there is to it. Um, Mason could still win, which would look good, but then everyone else who made the final 6 was between 7th and 11th on my ranking, which is pretty bad. Which for some reason I didn't fill out Bowman, so I guess it was between 8th and 11th. And then finally, we have the draft that me, Ren, and Ellie did. Funny thing about this is because Jack changed his vote and idled Flail at the very last minute, um, Ren was gonna lose to Ellie in the draft because he would have had Flail, which would have brought him to 176, and then I guess it could have tied because Ellie would have had Dahlia, who would have been tracked to get third, so they would have both had 176, I believe. Maybe it wasn't 176. It would have been a tie regardless. Um, but then to break it, we would have had whoever had the better first pick, which would have been Ellie. Don't tell Ren I said that. But regardless, I fucking destroyed both of them, so what does it matter? And then, yeah, I should probably move over this 29 chart to here and this 30 chart to there. But, yeah, whatever, it doesn't really matter. Let's do the actual thing we're here for. And, to be honest, this usually only takes 20-ish minutes, maybe a bit longer. Um, this season has fallen off completely since I did the mid-season power rankings. It was looking to be a good but not great season, and I guess it's kind of the same boat. It was definitely better before though. Now it's just not been a very fun season recently. Um, Definitively the worst returning season we've had, and I would also say pretty firmly in the bottom half of seasons, which, yikes, not a great place to be. But okay, now for real, we're actually gonna do it. First possible scenario is Clank, Flail, and Jack. And right away, some of these votes are obvious. Mason goes Jack, they're like very close friends outside of the game. Sandy goes Clank because she's been against Flail pretty much all game, and Jack just pissed her off. Dahlia was just pissed off by Jack, doesn't respect Flail, so that's another Clank vote. Bowman wouldn't vote Flail. It would either be Clank or Jack, but he's known Clank for longer. They've been friends for like 6 years or something. But I think he might respect Jack's game a bit more. He got voted out because Clank didn't wake up, but I don't think he really cares about that too much. Um, that's tough, actually. I have no idea. I'm gonna pencil in for Clank for now. Yeah, I'm gonna pencil in for Clank for now. The West, I think, would go Jack, but it's very close between Clank and Jack. It could go either way. CT, similar boat, but I would say probably Clank. Jade's also probably Clank. Jonah's also probably Clank. Uh, Plushie. This might be. I think Plushie goes well, to be honest. They got along pretty well in the game. And then I think Bryce. It would either be Clank or Jack. Um, Probably Clank, just based on some recent Joey discussion. Um, Honestly, I did not expect Clank to have such a sweep heal over Jack, but honestly, this might mean Clank wins every scenario he's in, but I see a very low chance he actually makes it to the end. Mason completely flipped the game on him recently. I do want to re-examine some of these votes, mainly CT and Jade. Um, do I actually feel like this is how it would go? Let me pull up the trust rankings and also the recent perspectives the Joey members have given. So I have to vamp for a second with this one. And really vamp because holy shit, my phone is not loading. Looking at the current data we have, I think CT felt better about Jack in the game, and Jade was in thought was more into Clank in the game. So I guess I'm gonna change. This is really based on not much at all. It could go either way, but I'm gonna make CT be a Jack vote, and um uh shit, I'm forgetting what I'm saying. Jade is gonna stay in Clank, so Clank still takes it, but the margins are a bit less thin. I mean, a bit more thin. Um, Similar vote. It's just Mason's though instead of Jack. Jack votes Mason. Sandy. Ooh, this is tough because it would have been Clank before this last episode, but I think Clank really pissed Sandy off because of the stuff Mason said about him. So actually, I think she might be Mason. Dahlia also goes Mason, I think. This is a great scenario for Mason. The one issue is just that, like, there's no way this happens because he wouldn't go there with Clank. Uh, Bowman's probably a Clank vote, though. Celeste is also a Clank vote, so maybe this isn't as good as we thought. CT's also okay. This might actually just be a... So Jade goes Clank. I think Jonah... We know Bryce goes Mason, and I think Plushie still probably goes Flail. So then if it comes down to Jonah, whoever he gives his vote to, he'll wins. I think right now he would be leaning Clank, but I think pitch-wise, he could be swaying to Mason's way. He was closer to Mason in game. He's known Clank for much longer, but what am I even talking about? Mason was his number one for so much of the game. He's a Mason vote. Even with the discourse and the joy about Clank having played a better game, he's a Mason vote. That should have been obvious. Clank, Flail, and Sandy. This is an interesting one. Honestly, Clank might have better Joey prospects than I came into this thinking, but as I said, there's just no way he actually makes it to the end. But, I mean, going through this, Jack is a Clank vote. That's an easy one. I think Mason's also a Clank vote. Dahlia's also a Clank vote. Bowman, also a Clank vote. So is Celeste. CT, same thing. Jade has been like obsessed with Sandy and Joy, but it's like kind of an ironic standing. So we'll go Clank. Um, Jonah, I think, also goes Clank. Plushie, I think, goes Flail again. Kind of voting for second place. Vice probably goes Clank. And then we have a 9-1-0 with Sandy being a 0 vote finalist, which feels crazy because based on the like jury opinions here, Sandy is way above Flail. But because Clank would basically sweep, it goes in Flail's favor for second because of the plushie connection. And then Clank Jack Mason, probably the most interesting scenario on the board, which I guess I have failed to mention who I would vote in each. Clank Flail Jack, I would say Jack has played the best game now. Clank Flail Mason, I would be on Mason's team. Clank Flail Sandy, I would be on Clank's team. So each one I would have picked a different person. So now Clank Jack Mason. Flail probably goes. It could be anyone, honestly. Not Mason, um, though she's trusted Mason more recently. Clank, they've known each other for so long. He's the same size. Yeah, these columns just look big for some reason for this season. I don't know why that is. Maybe just cause. Anyway, yeah, Flail. Maybe because he idled her, he would go Jack. It feels tough either way. Sandy, I think, is a Mason vote, just decisively. Dahlia, I think, is also a Mason vote. Bowman, I think, is Clank. Celeste and CT and Jade are all kind of hard for me to read personally, because they could go either way between these two. I think Celeste goes Jack. What did I have CT? Oreo. I had CT as a Jack vote and Jade as a Clank vote, which, that makes sense to me. I think that still checks out. So they all have two at this point, which is crazy. But I think Jonah gets Mason. I mean, Mason gets Jonah and Bryce, and then Plushie decides between these two. Oh, I guess Jack had three at that point. Either way, I think Plushie isn't voting Mason. We know that. And then between Jack and Clank, what if I had him as before? Because now I've always had him as a Flail vote, and now that Flail isn't here, Plushie would have to pick someone else. He wasn't close to Clank or Jack. I think between the two of them, he probably left the game with a better impression of um, Clank, because he wasn't too happy with how Jack was talking to him. So I guess Clank would make sense, which would then lead to a tie for second between Clank and Jack, where Mason would break it in Jack's favor, and Jack would get second, and Clank would get third. So this is a 4-3-3, and then Clank, Jack, Sandy. Well, I'm just gonna say a Jack vote again. This is one I'm not too confident in. Mason's a Jack vote. Dahlia is a. She might be a Sandy vote. This might actually be a pretty good scenario for Sandy. When I said. So I don't think this was right. I think Dahlia votes Sandy there. I think that was just a misfile. So this would be 8-1-1, and Clank would break the favor in Sandy's favor, I think. So then, yeah, okay, Sandy wouldn't be third place there. She would take second through the tiebreaker, and then back to this one. Bowman, I think, goes Clank. Celeste, I've had as Clank prior to this. Never mind, I have had Celeste as Jack prior to this. Same with CT, but then Jade for Clank. Jonah, I think, goes Jack. Plushie might go Sandy, to be honest. And then Bryce, I've had as a Clank photo in the past. So we'll say that this is a 5-3-2. But this is one I'm not too confident in. Jack takes this one. It's kind of funny how, with Clank, Jack, and Flail in FTC, Jack loses, but when Sandy's there, some votes that prior would have gone to Clank now go to Sandy, and that really opens up some things for Jack. Clank, Mason, Sandy, Flail, I think, is just a Clank vote. Jack is a Mason vote. Dahlia's probably a Mason vote. Bowman's a Clank vote. Celeste, probably Clank. CT, same thing. Jonah, Jade, same thing. But then Jonah and Bryce go Mason. Plushy goes Sandy, so Clank still takes this 5-4-1. But I think the votes that Mason has unlocked are much more unlocked than the votes Clank has unlocked. So I do think Mason would probably be able to sway this one in his favor, but it's close. Flail, Jack, Mason. Clank goes Jack. Sandy goes Mason. Dahlia goes Mason. Bowman goes Jack. Celeste goes Jack. CT probably goes Jack. Jade goes Jack. Um, Mason, Whale. So this would be a 5-4-1 based on this. And this is also what I think is the most likely FTC scenario we get at this point. Either this or Mason, Whale, Sandy, or Jack, Flail, Sandy. Depends on how final immunity goes and whether Sandy chooses to lay down her sword. Celeste, CT, Jade, I have no confidence in this one, like, ever. I never know what to do with them. I think they'll all swing votes. Flail, Jack, Sandy. Clank is a Jack vote. Mason is also decisively a Jack vote. Dahlia goes Sandy. Bowman goes Jack. Celeste goes Jack. CT goes Jack. There's a chance Jade goes Sandy, but I think ultimately still does Jack. Jonah goes Jack. Plushy goes between Sandy and Flail. I want to say Sandy actually, but it would be close. Bryce goes Jack, so it's an 8-0. But if Plushy goes Flail instead of Sandy, then I would say Jack would break the tie in Sandy's favor. Which I keep forgetting to say who I would vote in each scenario, so I'm just gonna say it here. There's a hierarchy of it to me where it doesn't quite matter who's there. I don't think the end game would make a big enough difference, but Flair is who I would vote in the least amount of scenarios, followed by Sandy, Flank, Jack, and then Mason I go for regardless of who he makes it there with. So back to the last two of these we have left. Flank between Mason and Sandy, that's tough. I almost want to say Sandy. Jack is Mason though. Dolly is. Who have I had Dahlia go and Mason and Sandy are both there? I'm gonna change that actually. See, these are very weird FTCs where a lot of votes could change pretty much consistently throughout all of these. Bowman, I think, goes. Oof, that's a tough one. This might be the best scenario for Sandy to maybe squeak out. I'd still say that. Celeste. CT goes Mason. Celeste and Jade. I think this is the one scenario with, like, the ironic Sandy standing actually works out for Sandy to win. Jonah and Bryce would go Mason, and Plushy would go Sandy. So then we would have a 5-5 tie, which I'm not. I don't feel like if this happened, Flair would break it in Mason's favor, I guess. But I don't know how. Like Plushy, Sandy, yeah. Jade definitely goes this, but I lack confidence in these three. I think no way both Jade and Celeste have the ironic Sandy standing both go the same way. So I'm gonna say Mason gets Celeste's vote, and we have a 6-4-0. And then finally Jack, Mason, Sandy. Clank goes Jack. Flail goes Jack. Dahlia goes Sandy. Bowman goes Jack. Celeste goes Jack. CT goes Jack. Jade goes Jack. Jonah and Bryce go Mason. And Plushy goes Sandy. Jack breaks the tie in Mason's favor, so we have a 6-2-2. And as you can see, this is a weird one where, pretty much no matter what, like Clank, Mason, and Jack can all beat each other in different combinations. Counting up how many scenarios each person wins, he was 2 for Clank, 3 for Clank. So Clank has 3, which I'm just gonna put to the side here for now until I have them all counted up. I know Flair has 0. I don't think Sandy has any. Yeah, Sandy has none where she wins. So both Flair and Sandy have 0 winning scenarios. So then it's Jack and Mason. I had Jack as having 1, 2, 3. So Jack also has 3. So that would mean Mason has 4. 1. This is a mess. 2. Wait. Wait a minute. No, that can't be right. 3, 6, 8? That doesn't check out at all. Let's count again. Clank, Mason, Clank, Mason. So they both have 2 at this point. So Clank, Mason, Jack, Clank, Jack. So I add 2 to Jack, 3 to Clank. Jack takes this one. Mason takes this one. And then this one goes to Jack. So we're gonna say that Jack has 4 winning scenarios, and then that Clank and Mason both have 3. Which honestly, I think I might recount this, because I don't know. I don't feel confident in my counting, so I'm just gonna vamp until then. These FTCs are pretty much a mess across the board. This is one of these where I can very decisively see myself being wrong in pretty much any of these. I would not be shocked at all if that was to happen, which, as I've noticed going through these, I think I have... Nope, never mind. I was gonna say, I might have miscounted in Jack's favor previously, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah, and then Clank would have the last 3. So, yeah, okay. So that should all be caught up, tallied up, right? This is definitely the FTC scenarios video that's probably the most, like, messy across the board of who could actually take it. There's 3 competitors who could all easily take it if they get to the end. It would just come down to FTC. Sandy could sneak in and get some votes depending on if any of these 3 have a bad showing. If they have a bad enough showing, Sandy could just flat out take it. Um, I don't see a world where Flair takes it in pretty much any instance, but otherwise it's a very competitive Final 5 all across the board, which is exciting because these last few rounds of the season have just been not great and pretty draining. So if we can have a good end to the season, that would be good. Before the season started, I was gonna put out a 30 ranking of all the seasons before 30, and then I lost access to a working microphone. But now that I have one back, I will start to write the semi-script I had for that video, so that'll be coming again. This was completely unscripted, besides, like, having the charts ready, but we'll see how it goes. I'll have that going eventually. But yeah, until then, this season was a disappointment. Hopefully the next Returning seasons are better. There are quite a few coming. They're gonna happen more often now than they had prior, partially just due to the fact that we've made it so far, and also it's just a lot easier to cast for Returning seasons, and on average they tend to be better, this season being a bit of an outlier. But yeah. Oh, I guess one more thing is me and Ren have argued about some Pokemon bullshit a few times. It's been recorded twice. Neither have been uploaded. So, but those will go out eventually. Yeah, that's about it.